Hello, my fellow witches, sorcerers, and other magical practitioners. My name is Aiden, and I'm back home. That's not what this video is about, whatsoever. Um, Today, I want to talk about something that I think gets overlooked a lot, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's an unpopular topic. And I think a lot of people are starting to talk about it, and I'm glad that they are. So today we're going to talk about how we fearmonger in the occult community. So in the occult community, we have a lot of rules, I guess. Yeah, we have these rules that we set up. And I think that we kind of expect that these so-called rules are universal for everyone. We use them to like keep people safe and stuff, but I don't really know. It's starting to seem like we are fear mongering the occult, which is exactly what we don't want. Um, we have these notions that if you don't do things this way, you don't progress this way, then everything's gonna fall apart and you will die. Well, you won't die, but be severely messed up. And I want to talk about the actual dangers of the occult today. The things that we don't actually talk about, because we usually talk about very mystical things and like magical things going wrong, when there's a lot of other things that can go wrong. And I think these are the actual things we should be concerned about and focusing on instead of some arbitrary thing. Like, people seem to think that if you don't ground censor and banish for like a year, then you won't be able to do a spell and you'll blow up or something. I don't really know what they are getting at, honestly. That is obviously a straw man argument, and I know that's a straw man argument. That's the point. Anyways, so the biggest issue with the occult is that it's a very not earthly thing. I don't know how to really well describe it, but it's something that detaches you from your humanity in a way. It detaches you from being a normal person and being in the world and being grounded in the physical, mundane reality 100% of the time, and takes you out of that space and into more of a spiritual, magical, mystical, whatever you want to call it, mindset. And in that mindset, you tend to really quickly get into a ton of thinking about all this. And like, it's a really cool thing. The occult is really cool. And that's the issue, is that it's so cool that people tend to get stuck in that and stuck in their headspace of the occult, and they kind of tend to forget about the rest of mundane reality. And a lot of this comes from personal experience. This is kind of how I've experienced the occult, and I think that a lot of other people experience the occult, is that they tend to, I guess we really just fall into these negative headspaces. Negative not meaning like bad thoughts, but thoughts that aren't constructive. Thinking about all these mystical, spiritual things, all these not grounded in reality things. Like, we start to think about spirits and magical operations, which is fine. It's fine to think about those things, but I think a lot of people get obsessive about them. We get obsessed with spirit experiences and spirit contact, and we kind of start to think that everything is a spiritual experience. Everything's related. Well, okay, this is complicated because, yes, I do believe that everything is inherently spiritual, everything's interconnected, all that good stuff. But I don't think that everything is inherently super mystical, super big sign, you know? We go looking for signs. That's the better thing. We go looking for signs where there aren't any. And I think that we need to look inwards into ourselves and realize that these signs and symbols are really just metaphors for things in our life that we need to work through. Oftentimes these big mystical things are not really pertaining to us. I've had apocalyptic visions. I've seen weird stuff, but it's not really about me being some chosen one or whatever. It's really more about understanding my microcosm to these symbols that I've been given. And the point of these symbols is to decode them and understand them through the lens of the mundane microcosm. And through this lens, we realize that it's not always a grand spiritual battle that's going on. There's not some grand war. Because I know some people who definitely think that spirituality is some great big war between like angels and demons and gods and not gods. I don't know. But no. It is a very, very clear thing. These symbols are meant to aid us in our everyday life, and I think that we get very obsessive about mystical symbols. When we do get into like deep mysticism and like experiencing the spiritual world and like going beyond just mundane life, we start to see that these symbols are again reflected in the microcosm, but also that these symbols do not pertain to us. Rather, they pertain to a greater symbol system that we can then decode and start to understand things about ourselves and the world around us. And I think that we get obsessive with spirituality and how it all works and the universe and how it was made and where we come from and all that great stuff. Which is fine. It's fine. But you shouldn't be hardcore obsessed with it. And sometimes it's important to take a step back. And when you don't take a step back, you really fall into delusion. That's the real danger of the occult, is delusion. Because the occult is magic and spiritual, we realize that we are stepping out of the mundane. When we step out of the mundane, we start to get into more dangerous territory, not because of some spirit or whatever that's like attacking us. It's because our minds are designed for a mundane world, and when we take our minds to a not mundane world, we start to experience new things and feelings and a whole bunch of stuff that's indescribable entirely. That it kind of makes us start trying to comprehend that in our reality, but then sometimes it doesn't really work, and it's just, delusion can form from so many different things. It can be so unique to you, which is very fun. You can have very unique delusions, which is not fun for you to have to break down later on. But your delusions, they should not rule you. They should not make you it shouldn't make you feel worse about yourself either. You shouldn't be focusing on your delusions. You can have these ideas in the back of your head, but you should never let them become full-on delusions and let them block yourself from achieving better things spiritually. That's really what I'm here to say, is that the occult, while fantastic and wonderful, it does come with some dangers, and that really is just delusion. Because we get blinded by delusion all the time. And we need to train our minds to not fall into delusion and to not believe everything that we hear and see from spirits. They're not always spirits. You can argue everything's a spirit, but that's the point entirely. You should understand that these things that we are interacting with, they are non-corporeal, and so we have to translate them into a corporeal existence. And when we translate them into that existence, we have to give them a mundane explanation. We start to understand why these things happen, what we're being told, and everything like that. Because yeah, it's cool to believe that you're a witch with powers, but it's not cool when you realize that your entire identity is built on delusion. And that's the biggest thing. Not allowing yourself to fall so deep into delusion that when that delusion is shattered, your identity is completely destroyed. Because you shouldn't have to go through that. You shouldn't have to go through this false illusion of the world around you. You shouldn't be at the peak of Mount Stupid forever. Sometimes you gotta fall down a bit and realize that sometimes you need to evaluate things more before you start trying to pursue them as truth. Because that's the biggest thing, is the truth is very malleable. I was raised in a belief system that taught me that there's one truth and we are that truth. I since then decoded that and realized that there really is no one truth. No one can give you one truth because we are human. And humans cannot process the fullness of truth. That's the simple truth of it. The one truth thing out there, truth is unknowable. And so when we try to make sense of things, we need to understand that there are physical limitations to what we are and can do. And we need to understand that and not feed into our delusions. Kind of gone around in a circle. It's been a weird few weeks. I hope you guys are glad that I'm back for a bit. I'll try to be more consistent. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.